Hi, my name is Isaac, and I am a homeschooling father of 8. Here you can see my oldest daughter as she's graduating from our homeschool academy with the support and celebration of all of her siblings. And the person that makes this all possible, my sweet wife. We've been married now for over 20 years and homeschooling for half of that. A wonderful journey to have been on. Also, I'm an engineer. I studied as an engineer. I practice engineering right now, and it is a wonderful and satisfying career field. It's a wonderful thing to solve problems for humanity and also get to participate in some really quite exciting projects. So, what I'd like to do is I'd just like to share some of my experience with you. So, you can see here, these are examples of buildings and structures that I've engineered, from big steel structures to big houses. I've also done multifamily housing, restaurants, gyms, resorts, you name it. I've probably engineered it. And also, I've been able to participate in some really exciting engineering projects, like the ones you see here. Very important and very, very exciting. So, one of the things that I've noticed throughout my career as an engineer is that we just don't have enough engineers. They're hard to recruit, they're hard to find, they're hard to educate, to the point that it's becoming a threat to our way of life, where we just don't have enough engineers to engineer all of the things that we need to for our national defense, for our infrastructure, for all of the things that we have around us that we use daily. And so we've asked ourselves, why? Why do we not have all the engineers that we need if it's such a satisfying and rewarding career field? Well, that's one of the questions that we got after while I was a graduate student. And we learned a few things. One, and not surprising, the cost of education is getting really quite high, almost untenably high. And we don't really expect it to get any cheaper anytime soon. Two, it takes a long time to become an engineer. On average, it takes an engineer about 5.5 years to get through a 4-year program. So that extra year and a half, well, that can be really quite expensive, especially with today's prices. And lastly, a lot of people just aren't prepared to start an engineering program right at the beginning. And that's one of the reasons why it takes 5.5 years, is because they just weren't ready at the very beginning on the first semester of their freshman year. So we looked into this a little bit further. And so here we have just a simple timeline. We have at the very end somebody sitting and practicing engineering like I am right now. In order to get to this spot, well, they have to graduate. In order to graduate, we learned that they have to be successful in a class called statics. Statics is a study of forces of things that are stationary. Depending on how well they do in that class will set the tone for how well they do the rest of their education and consequently into their career. Now, if they don't do well in statics, it doesn't mean that they can't overcome. It just means that they have a bit more work to go through. Now, statics, what determines if somebody will be successful in statics? Well, that's a great question, and we learned that two things determine whether somebody will be successful in statics or not. One is obviously math, but that's not the most important piece. The most important piece is how well developed their ability to spatially think. Now, spatial thinking is a form of intelligence. There's been a lot of study going on that right now, and spatial intelligence is a key determining factor in how well somebody will do in this class called statics. Well, spatial thinking isn't something that can be developed really quite quickly, but it can be developed. So if somebody lands their freshman year and they've never had any experience doing stuff with spatial thinking, well, it doesn't mean they won't be successful. It just means that their learning curve is going to be a bit higher. Now, spatial thinking is the ability to take a three-dimensional object, to close your eyes and picture it in your mind's eye, to rotate it and see it from different angles. And there's some things you can do to even test your spatial thinking, like the mental cutting test. You can Google that and pull up some tests and see how well you do. So how do we develop spatial thinking? When is a good time frame to do that? Well, we know that too. That in grades 7 through 9 is actually the best time to develop spatial thinking. And so what we have done is we have created a course. Our solution is a 16-week course that introduces kids, youth in grades 7 through 9 to engineering concepts based around statics. These engineering concepts we teach without all the complicated math, but with math that somebody in grade 7 through 9 would be accustomed to. We included a kit with this course. The kit includes lots of hands-on things to be able to reinforce all of the things that they are learning in this curriculum. And ideally, we start to develop this spatial thinking. And the spatial thinking and some practice with these engineering concepts will prepare them to be successful in the class called statics. Now, they decide not to be an engineer, that's okay. It's a wonderfully fun course. So, come join us, and together we can engineer a future. See you there.